Woman Ways, and today I want to talk to you about my journey with alopecia. So, alopecia is an autoimmune disorder, and I was diagnosed with it about 10 years ago, along with arthritis, which is also an autoimmune disorder. And all autoimmune disorders have something in common, and that's that they're related to inflammation. And scientists are agreeing more and more that autoimmune disorders and these disorders of inflammation are all sort of rooted in the gut microbiome. And those healthy little creatures in your gut, or not so healthy creatures in your gut, that our modern society has really sort of started to kill. I mean, there's so many things in our modern environment that don't support a healthy microbiome. So anyway, 10 years ago, I started experiencing severe hair loss. I mean, my hair just falling out in huge clumps, and I'd end up with clumps in my hands in the shower. It'd be falling out at work, on the couch. I'd get up and there'd just be tons of hair. And I eventually went through a wig stage and a scarf stage and a hat stage and cut my hair short. But anyway, I over the years studied more and more and more about um, autoimmune disorders because I had a couple of them, and I was confused by that. So I want to talk about a little bit why I feel like I ended up with these autoimmune disorders, and part of that just is tons of research over the years that culminated in ending up reading this book by Stephen Gundry called The Plant Paradox. And he really believes that people with autoimmune disorders are the canary in the coal mine. That we're kind of the more sensitive ones, but it doesn't mean that everybody won't end up with these autoimmune disorders because of our modern society and the things that cause inflammation in our bodies. But I was born in 1971, and at that time, sort of breastfeeding was out, so I was fed on formula and in BPA bottles. And so I didn't have a very good start with my immune system in the first place, not having been nursed at all, and being fed probably formula that didn't have very good nutrition in it whatsoever. Um, but anyway, when I was in high school, I ended up being diagnosed with Epstein-Barr, mono, strep throat. And by the time I ended up at the doctor, I was so sick that I had to go in several times for shots in my rear end. And and I really felt like, that because it had been neglected for so long, I really felt like that did a number on sort of my immune system. But then from the time I originally got treated for that through the time that I was 25, I ended up getting strep throat at least 6 times a year. I felt like I was in there all the time, and the doctors just gave me antibiotic after antibiotic after antibiotic. And I eventually got to a point where I was antibiotic resistant, and they would give me, I don't know what they were called, but there was the K-Pack, and then like the one that was even more strong than the K-Pack, and none of them worked. And I eventually had to have my tonsils out, or they told me I had to have my tonsils out when I was about 25 because there was no more medication that they could give me. And by the way, when I was a teenager, even before I had this bout with mono and Epstein-Barr and chronic fatigue, and they're all kind of related, I can't remember how, but I had what's called tonsil stones, which is in the back of your tonsils you get these little white, gunky, smelly things. And as a kid, I would like squeeze them out, and that's pus and inflammation. And so this was something that I had been struggling with, I think before I even ended up with mono in the first place, or that first big bout of it. So anyway, I got my tonsils out at 25, which did help with the strep throat. But then by the time I was 35, I had these few autoimmune disorders. And so while going through my wig phase and, all those different phases and trying to, surrender to this thing that was happening in my life where I was losing my hair and dealing with pain from the arthritis, um, I was doing a lot of research about nutrition and diet and autoimmune disorders and how to heal them. And I went through a lot of different diets. So I went through the GAPS diet, the paleo diet, the autoimmune paleo diet. Before those, I had also been told from the time I was a young child that I was always deficient in like every vitamin. So when they would test me, I was always iron deficient. I was always zero vitamin D. I mean, just everything. They would say, you know, you have none of these vitamins, go take these supplements. And I would take the supplements and nothing would happen because my gut microbe was destroyed and it couldn't extract any nutrients from any of the food or the supplements that were in my body. But even before the gaps in autoimmune stuff, I bought a juicer. I was juicing all kinds of things. I was buying all of these superfoods. Any new superfood that was out there, I was buying it because I knew I was deficient in all these vitamins. And I probably spent tons of money. I'm sure I spent tons of money on all that stuff. And then I came across Dr. Gundry's book, The Plant Paradox, which said a couple things in there that I thought was interesting. And one of them was that with autoimmune disorders, you need to focus on not putting things in your body versus putting things in your body. So I thought, you know, my hair and stuff was falling out and things were happening because I wasn't getting enough nutrition. What I didn't realize was that so many of the foods that I was putting in my body were causing inflammation, that because I had these autoimmune disorders, I had a real sensitivity to a lot of different healthy foods. And Dr. Gundry is really good about talking about that. You know, I had given up grains and other things years ago, or tried to, gone through different phases in my life of giving those up. But so many healthy greens, which I had been using, like wheatgrass and alfalfa sprouts, and all of these things that I was juicing are actually really bad for people with autoimmune disorders. And so I started to follow his diet, but then I actually even took it a step further and ended up doing a carnivore diet. And I actually still am doing that somewhat, where you just eat meat. And there's more and more doctors coming out talking about meat because meat just doesn't upset your stomach or your gut microbe. If you have a gut microbe, it doesn't upset that the same way that plants do. And when I finally got to this carnivore diet, my hair had stopped falling out and it had actually been doing really well. And a little bit of growth back in there, but what's really happening is all the hair that I have is just much healthier than it was. It's growing in super thick. I do have some new growth, but it's nothing like it used to be. But anyway, this carnivore diet just changed my world because, you know, I'd always been sort of a big protein meat eater, but I still couldn't extract any of the nutrients from that. And meat and organs, beef organs specifically, have been so healing for me. And so I just want to show you a couple things that I use. I do buy beef organs, but they're kind of hard to find here, grass-fed. And I do eat meat. Sometimes it's not grass-fed, but I don't like to eat organs that aren't grass-fed, especially liver. I just feel like liver is where, you know, all the chemicals accumulate. And so this is Ancestral Supplements. Ancestral Supplements grass-fed beef organs. And so if I don't grind up my own beef organs, I'll grind them up and put them in hamburger, different things, but I do take that every day because there's so many nutrients in beef organs. And then I also take K2D3. I live in Alaska and I can't get vitamin D, and I just feel like that is really important. And I used to take 5 million supplements, but the only other supplement I take now is betaine, which is hydrochloric, I think it's called hydrochloric acid. And eventually I may be able to come off that, but now with meat, I take that just to make sure that I can extract its acid. And with, a problematic gut microbe, um, you have a hard time extracting nutrients from everything. But I've seen such a difference since I've been doing this. Um, First of all, I don't wear makeup anymore. My camera's really bad, but I just have so much color in my face that um, it's just so many things I can tell. My skin looks great. My face looks flushed. I don't hurt anymore. I don't have the arthritis anymore. My hair is doing amazing. And I want to talk to you about a few other things that I do, a few other products that I use. So, along with your gut microbe in your gut, there's also uh, you also have your microbe on your skin. Your skin's an organ, and you have that on your skin. So, about a year ago, I moved to Alaska, and since I've been living here, I kind of gave up almost all products because I just want to continue to heal my gut microbe and my skin microbe and any little good little bacterial friends that I have. I want to treat them really, really well. So where we live, we're on a well, so we don't have any chemicals in our water anymore, and I don't use actually any products on my hair anymore. So I started with a um, what's it called? The no poo method, which is where you use kind of vinegar or and baking soda on your hair, and then I went to just the water only and just started rinsing my hair with water every few days, zero products. And the only products that I would ever use would be this 100% pure argan oil because my hair, especially in the cold and the wind, my hair would get dry kind of on the end. So I would just put a little bit, it would get dry and frizzy. So I put a little bit of the argan oil on the ends. But other than that, I use no product, no shampoo, no conditioner. Um, I don't have my wood comb. I would get out of the shower and comb it and let it dry. And then every morning and night, I would brush it with this boar bristle brush. And instead of being scared about pulling out my hair, I really, would just brush it hardcore, morning and night. Because you want to get, I think it's called sebum, you want to get all your oils from your scalp all the way down to the ends of your hair. And um, and then I probably rinse it maybe twice a week in the shower. And I scritch and preen where I really get all of that healthy natural oil going all the way through my hair. Um, so I've had a really good experience. Oh, I also use, sometimes it does get just slightly musty smelling maybe if I want to go out. I don't use products, I don't use perfumes, I don't use, I actually don't, when I shower, I don't shower every day anymore. I just don't feel like it's good for that microbiome. I probably couldn't have gotten away with that in California where I lived. It's been 100 degrees there for weeks. But here in Alaska, it rarely gets above 70. And so I don't shower every day anymore because I just, where I live, the roads aren't even paved here in Alaska, and I feel like the dirt is really healthy and has all kinds of healthy bacteria in it. And, I'll rinse myself off when they're dirty, but I just don't use even soap very often anymore. um, when I do use soap, I use this, which is Pure Castile, Dr. Bronner's Pure Castile soap, which really is just essential oils and different oils in it. Um, and that, from the research that I've done, is just one of the healthiest soaps that you can use. Um, and I don't use deodorant most of the time, but when I do, when I go out and want to make sure that I'm not too stinky, I use what's called Alpenglow deodorant. And the ingredients in this, I just like this because it's Alaska. It's a local brand. And the only ingredients in this are organic arrowroot powder, organic coconut oil, organic shea butter, beeswax, baking soda, willow bark extract, and lemongrass essential oil. So that's all that's in that. I just don't want to put anything on my skin that's going to interrupt my healing microbiome. I want to be as good to my little buddies as possible, so I'm pretty picky about that. I do every once in a while spray myself again if I want to smell nice. I use this clear glass bottle and put some essential oils in that and fill it with water and kind of spray that. And the essential oil brand that I love the most is called Plant Therapy, which I love because I've done a ton of research on essential oils. And there are essential oils that can be really healthy for hair, and I've gone through phases of combining those and spraying them on my hair. I don't do that so much anymore. But Plant Therapy doesn't charge for shipping, and they're a really high quality company that has a lot of integrity. And I really appreciate them a lot. And let's see, do I have any other goodies here to oh, I do. I have one more goodie. So I actually do dye my hair, which I know sounds really weird. I've actually tried to grow it out, but I just can't deal with that half gray hair. And I don't want to go to a salon and have them do gray hair on my head. And I probably would have grown it out, except I found this amazing product called Hair Print, and I'll put a link for that too, and you can read about it. But it's really like the only, I know people think henna is natural, but henna is really not good for your hair at all. But this Hair Print dye is amazing, and I only do that a couple times a year because you'll notice from my my videos and my thumbnails, I wear hats a lot. It's cold here in Alaska, and I let my gray hair grow out, and I just wear a hat. But I did dye it before I went to Los Angeles recently to visit, so I wouldn't have to wear a hat when I was down there in the 100-degree weather. And so I dyed it before I went there. So I do that eventually, and I wouldn't if I didn't feel really confident about this particular natural brand of hair dye. So anyway, I want to tell you one more story about my hair. Oh, I do have a couple more products here. Sorry. I also don't wash my face or anything with any kind of products normally. Again, I just feel like my gut microbe needs as much help as possible. So I really am careful about what I put on my face. So I really don't even rinse it at night. I know that's kind of probably controversial because everyone says you should wash your face, but I don't unless I do wear makeup, and which is rare, but sometimes I wear a little mascara and some other things. I can't find my coconut oil, but here it is. But I do use fractionated coconut oil. This is Now brand. Again, I usually order it from Plant Therapy because they have the free shipping, and I just really appreciate that brand. But I was able to buy this locally, so I have this. I was out and got some here. But fractionated coconut oil is liquid, and I like that because it's just easier to use with some things. And then to wash my face every few days, I use salicylic acid, which does sting and it kind of cleans out your pores and everything, but I really like that, and every few days I use that. And when I use that, I moisturize with this big glop, I don't know what to call that, this big blob of pure shea butter, which comes in this weird package. I keep it inside another container, but I pulled it out for you. And that's all I moisturize with. And I actually don't moisturize my body or any really, and I only moisturize with the shea butter on my face when I put the salicylic acid on there. So that is all the products that I use. And it was funny because I have this really good friend that I walk with here in Alaska, and we were out walking, and I've shared with her my journey on my with my hair and the carnivore. I'm going to be talking more about my diet on different videos because I do add some other things in, but she was encouraging me to stop wearing hats. And I've gotten in this habit of covering up my hair because it's been in such bad shape for so long. And it's just easier. It's this habit. And she's like, you really shouldn't cover your hair, especially when we're just out walking. Like, let your hair go free. And hats aren't good for hair. And that's true. Wearing hats really isn't good for hair because it constricts. But I've knitted these hats that have just a lot of air holes, and they're big and roomy and they're not tight. So I felt justified in that, but she encouraged me to stop wearing hats. So the next day, I have this little jewelry booth where I sell jewelry stuff, and I decided to go without my hat, and I especially don't like to go without hats when it's windy because I still have pretty thin hair underneath here. And I don't know, it's just this habit that I've had to be careful out in the wind. And I wore my hat and I just decided I'm going to be wild and own it and enjoy this, hair that I have. And I went to get a drink at this little booth that was outside, and I was standing out there and my hair was whipping back and forth, and I was like owning it. I was like, I'm a wild lioness. I'm a wild animal enjoying this outside. I was fully in sort of that wild woman, wise place, trying not to be insecure. Not trying. I was not being insecure about my illness. And I was standing there with every ounce of confidence that I could muster inside me. And the woman that knows me, because the booth is right next door to where I work, said, "You look amazing today. You look like this wild woman." She told me that exactly. And then there were two men standing in line, and they both sort of flirtatiously commented to me, which I just thought was so funny because I haven't had compliments from men in a long time, and I feel like, well, I'm almost, moving towards 50, and maybe that doesn't happen. But it was so funny this day that I decided to let go of these old habits that, I used to protect myself and to hide behind. And, when I decided to strip those off, I got these compliments. And I really believe everything happens for a reason. And that my autoimmune disorders and other issues that I've had happen for a reason. I've had a lot of struggles with both physical health and mental health, and I'll be doing lots more videos about that. But I really believe everything happens for a reason, and that we have a say in what that reason is. And I choose to believe that these things have happened to me for a life because I wanted to come incarnate on this earth to understand what real, pure health and wellness is. And that you can't understand that unless you really experience unhealth and unwellness. And I also feel like they've taught me that I'm not my body. I've had a lot of issues with pain, and again, I'll do other videos about that. And the issue with hair loss, and I've learned so much in the process that I am a being that wears a body, but I'm not my body at all. And learning that has helped me to be a more joyful being. It's helped me be more in contact with my inner sexual being. It's helped me have this loving, unconditional appreciation for myself and what my body can do, and that my sexiness and my joy and my inner self has nothing to do with this costume that I wear whatsoever. And for that, it was a hard lesson. It's a really hard lesson. But in the end, I learned to separate myself from that. Um, and again, it wasn't hard. It impacted my marriage. We almost didn't make it in our marriage. This hair loss thing was complicated, and I'll do another video about that. Um, but I have learned so much, and I wouldn't trade it. So I encourage you to love your body no matter what's going on with it. Love all your little, bacteria that hang out with you, all your little colonies of friends. And when you learn to love yourself, you can find ways to heal yourself. And even if you don't heal physically, you can heal whatever wounds are going on emotionally, and you can find joy no matter what your issues are. So again, if you want to see more pictures about my autoimmune disorder, my alopecia issue, you can go to my website. I'll link it below, and I'll have pictures and other information about that. So enjoy yourself and love yourself and be well. Embrace wellness, no matter what physical issue is going on with you. Because if you do, it will make finding wellness in the physical realm much easier.